Chapter 1. On my birthday, I found my fiancée's pregnancy test. But in the 6 years we'd been together, we had never been intimate. She was pregnant with another man's child. Our wedding was just 3 days away. I was only grateful that we hadn't signed the marriage license yet, which saved me a lot of trouble. On the day of the wedding, I simply didn't show up. She began to stalk me like a woman possessed. Victoria Ashton and I had been together for 6 years. She always said she wanted to save her first time for our wedding night. I respected her wishes. For 6 years, I never crossed that line. When she said she wanted to start a business, I gave her all my savings from the past few years. Even when she lost it all, I wasn't angry for a moment. Instead, I was the one wiping her tears, afraid she would feel too guilty. I am an orphan, and I've longed for a family of my own ever since I was a child. That's why I proposed to her every year of our relationship, each proposal more formal than the last. I wanted to prove my sincerity with time. Finally, a short while ago, she accepted. I was immersed in the joy of our engagement, busy every day with wedding preparations. I never imagined she would cheat on me at a time like this. I already had a suspect in mind for the father of this child. It had to be Ethan Moore, who had recently returned from abroad. Victoria explained that they were just childhood friends. Although I had never met him, I constantly saw Ethan in the photos from Victoria's get-togethers with her friends on social media. Seeing him at every single one of their girls' nights, I expressed my dissatisfaction several times. In the 6 years Victoria and I had been together, I hadn't dined with her friends as many times as Ethan had in the single month since his return. "What are you so jealous about?" she'd say dismissively. "Ethan and I have known each other for over 20 years. If something was going to happen, do you think you would have even had a chance? A grown man getting jealous, isn't that disgusting? Me disgusting. What about her cheating on me behind my back? Wasn't that disgusting?" Ever since Ethan came back, Victoria often came home late at night. One night she returned late, tossed her bag down, and rushed straight into the bathroom. The sound of the shower started immediately. A moment later, her phone began to vibrate incessantly. Annoyed, I picked it up to silence the notifications, but the message preview that popped up on the screen left me stunned. It was from Ethan. "Don't wear underwear next time. It's inconvenient." Victoria, wrapped in a bath towel, stormed out and snatched the phone from my hand. "Sincere Smith, you're spying on me," she exclaimed, frantically unlocking the phone to check the messages. I waited for her explanation, my face cold. Perhaps my expression was too grim, because Victoria, who was usually so arrogant with me, began to explain in a panic. He was just joking with me. She tossed the phone aside and wrapped her arms around my neck. "Are you jealous? He's been abroad for too long and has forgotten his manners. I'll give him a piece of my mind later, okay?" She was wearing nothing but a towel, her soft body pressing against mine. I shyly pushed her back as she leaned in closer. All I could manage to say, my face beat red, was, "You two need to be more careful. Don't let it happen again." Thinking back now, I just want to curse myself. No wonder Victoria dared to get pregnant with another man's child. I was such a fool. I walked out to the balcony and lit a cigarette. Victoria hated the smell of smoke. This was the first one I'd had in 6 years. I took a deep drag and the thick smoke choked me. After thinking for a long time, I called my boss. "Mr. Davis," I said, "count me in for that out-of-town transfer." My boss was surprised. "What happened? Didn't you say you were getting married and didn't want the transfer?" "The wedding's off." I took another drag from the cigarette. Mr. Davis and I had a good relationship, and he could hear that something was wrong in my voice, so he didn't press further.
"All right, you leave in 3 days. Get yourself ready."
3 days later was also the day of my wedding to Victoria. She cheated, so I was leaving her at the altar. We were even. The clock on my phone showed it was past 10 p.m., and Victoria still wasn't home. Ever since I saw the pregnancy test in the trash, I had lost all motivation to heat up the dinner I'd made. The birthday cake had long since melted. I lit another cigarette. Just then, Victoria came home. She walked in, saw me smoking, and frowned, snatching the cigarette from my hand and stubbing it out. Chapter 2. Why are you smoking? Didn't I tell you I hate the smell of smoke?
But Victoria, I told you I hate being betrayed.
Why didn't you listen? I just felt like it, I replied coolly. My indifferent expression made Victoria freeze. She probably wasn't used to me not fawning all over her. She was in a good mood today, so she didn't press the issue. She handed me a blue plastic bag. Still mad? It's your birthday, so I'll let it slide. Look at the gift I got you. It's a designer tie. I opened the gift box. Inside was a tie in a hideously earthy color. If I remembered correctly, Ethan had just posted on his social media a couple of days ago complaining about how ugly this exact color scheme was. She was giving me the trash Ethan didn't want. A chill went down my spine as I thought about how I agonized over her birthday gifts every year, terrified of getting her something that one of her friends already had. I put the gift aside, tossing it carelessly onto the sofa, and turned toward the dining table. Sincere Smith, what is wrong with you? You have no idea how busy I was today. I rushed back with a gift for you, and this is how you act? We're getting married in 3 days. If you keep throwing a tantrum like this, aren't you afraid I'll call it off? Was her busy day spent drinking and clubbing with Ethan at a nightclub? I held up my phone. Miss Ashton, next time you should tell Ethan to remember to block me before he posts on his social media. Victoria's lies were exposed on the spot. Her face turned bright red. The reek of alcohol coming off her was stronger than the smell of smoke on me. I walked to the dining table and began scraping the cold dishes, one by one, into the trash can. Every single dish was one of Victoria's favorites. I had spent 2 hours carefully preparing them, only for none of it to be eaten. The food was wasted, and so was my love. Victoria rushed to the table, grabbed a pair of chopsticks, and stuffed a piece of meat into her mouth. Don't throw it away. I want to eat it. Cold meat has a gamey taste, and with her sensitive palate, she especially hated that flavor. She forced herself to swallow it, holding back her disgust for a few seconds before she couldn't take it anymore. She ran to the bathroom and threw it all up. I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity. I patted her back to help her catch her breath and handed her a clean towel after she rinsed her mouth. The actions were so fluid and automatic that even I was surprised. After 6 years, my muscle memory was conditioned to take care of her every need. She took the towel, wiped her face, and as I turned to leave, she grabbed my sleeve. I wasn't trying to hide it from you. My friends threw me a party today, she said, her tone uncharacteristically soft. They said since I'm getting married, they wanted to throw me a bachelorette party. I honestly didn't know Ethan was going to be there. I know you don't like him. I'll delete all his contact information right now, okay? Please don't be mad. Victoria was becoming more and more of a mystery to me. She was carrying Ethan's child, so why was she still trying so hard to please me? She had always been so proud, never deigning to apologize to me. Every time we argued, it was always me who had to humbly beg for peace. Now she was repeatedly showing me a softer side. I found it strange, but whatever her motive was, she wouldn't succeed. Don't worry about it. You've had a long day. Go get some sleep. Only then did she happily go to take a shower and get ready for bed. Late at night, thinking I was sound asleep, she tiptoed out to the living room to make a phone call. But I was wide awake. I heard every word of her conversation with Ethan. Why didn't you block him before you posted that? He's not falling for those lies anymore. We're getting married soon, so you need to be more careful. I lay in bed with my eyes closed. My heart would never again be swayed by her feigned vulnerability. Chapter 3. The next morning I was awakened by my alarm. My head was still fuzzy when the aroma of cooking wafted in from the dining room. Confused, I walked into the living room to see Victoria busy in the kitchen. This was the first time in all these years that she had ever made me breakfast. She always said she hated the smell of cooking fumes and that cooking aged women faster, so I had never let her set foot in the kitchen. Back then, I loved her and was willing to do anything for her. I went from a clueless kid who knew nothing about cooking to a man skilled in various cuisines, all thanks to her high standards. She had a sensitive palate and was incredibly particular about the taste of food. Nothing could be too salty or too bland. I thought she would never step into a kitchen in her life. But then, I saw a post on Ethan's social media feed of a 3-course meal she had cooked, complete with soup. That's how I learned she even knew how to make soup. A soup I had never once tasted, yet Ethan's caption read, "Still the taste I remember." How ironic. Seeing me up so early, Victoria smiled and greeted me. "Sincere, why are you up? You don't have to work today. What's the rush?" I had taken a few days of leave from work for the wedding preparations, but yesterday I had promised my boss I'd come in today to handle the transfer paperwork. I answered casually, "There's an urgent matter at the office I need to look into." Victoria hadn't worked in years, so she didn't suspect my flimsy excuse in the slightest. "We'll have some breakfast before you go." She proudly sat me down at the dining table, placing freshly toasted bread and a newly fried egg in front of me. Finally, she set a glass of warm milk before me, waiting with expectant eyes for me to try it. I looked at the steaming milk and laughed. My laugh was strange. Victoria asked, "What are you laughing at?" I tapped my finger on the glass of milk and then said to her with self-deprecating humor, "Victoria, we've been together for 6 years. When are you going to remember that I'm lactose intolerant?" A flash of embarrassment crossed her face. She quickly tried to cover it up. "I didn't forget. I just didn't sleep well, and my mind is a bit jumbled. The milk is for me. Yours is juice. It's in the fridge. I'll get it for you." I stopped her. "No need. You eat. I have to go." Victoria suddenly grabbed my hand, frowning. "Are you still angry that I couldn't be here to celebrate your birthday with you yesterday?" But I already apologized. I really couldn't get away. They're my best friends. I can't just abandon them because I'm marrying you and it's your birthday, can I? You're the most understanding person I know. You can tolerate this, right? Yes, I had always been understanding and tolerant of her. That was because I loved her, and I thought she loved me back. She always said that 2 people in love shouldn't fight over trivial things. So, missing our anniversary was a trivial thing. Ditching me when I was sick to go out with friends was a trivial thing. Every time I got angry, she would threaten not to marry me, knowing how much I craved a family. It wasn't until Ethan appeared that I realized Victoria was perfectly capable of cherishing a loved one. In this short month, I had seen her selfless devotion to Ethan. All the things she was unwilling to do for me were simply because she didn't love me. I pulled my hand away. "Victoria, I have something to—" Just as I was about to speak, Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and immediately answered. "What's wrong?" She probably didn't even realize how her expression and tone softened the moment she answered the call. But in the next second, her expression suddenly became tense. Chapter 4. How did that happen? "I know. I'll be right there." After hanging up, Victoria, who usually took 2 hours to do her makeup and get dressed, immediately grabbed her bag and car keys and rushed out the door. "Sincere, my friend was in a car accident. I have to get to the hospital to take care of her. I don't know when I'll be back. Let's just go with the first wedding dress option. And can you have the wedding planner stand in for me during the walkthrough?" With that, she ran out of the house in a panic, her shoes barely on. If she hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten about the wedding venue and the rehearsal. I took a taxi to the office. On the way, I called the wedding planning company. "Cancel this afternoon's entire rehearsal. I'll inform the family. The final payment will be sent after the wedding is over." When I arrived at the office, my work buddies were surprised to see the groom to be there. "I'm taking the transfer. You're not getting married anymore?" Thinking about what would happen on the wedding day, I couldn't help but smile. Of course I am. Why wouldn't I? Everyone found it strange that I had accepted the transfer but wasn't canceling the wedding. Perhaps only Mr. Davis guessed what I was planning. I spent the whole day busy at the office and even found time to soothe Victoria's parents' displeasure about canceling the wedding rehearsal. The next day, Victoria still hadn't come home. I habitually opened Ethan's social media feed. As expected, he had blocked me, but that didn't matter. I had an alternate account. I logged in and sure enough, I saw Ethan's posts. From yesterday to this morning, Ethan had posted 3 times. The first was a picture of his injured leg, complaining about a reckless driver who had broken it. The second was a picture of his luxurious hospital meal, which included a fair-skinned arm with a gold bracelet I had given Victoria. The latest post was a picture of a woman sleeping, slumped over his hospital bed. She was still wearing yesterday's clothes. The caption read, "Been having some bad luck lately, but at least I have this clingy one to keep me company." Victoria was truly head over heels for Ethan, staying by his side to take care of him without any sleep. I spent the entire day packing my things, trying to erase every trace of my existence, a final farewell to the past. By nightfall, Victoria still hadn't returned. She only sent a brief text saying her friend was sick and needed her care. Looking at the few short words in the text, I felt nothing but scorn. She couldn't even be bothered to put effort into her lies anymore. Finally, I took out my phone to check flight tickets for tomorrow. Suddenly, I saw the remote app for the dashcam, which I had never opened before. On a whim, I checked the past video recordings. The content made me sick to my stomach. Victoria and Ethan had been having sex in the car I bought for her. The woman who was so pure and aloof with me was a completely different, sultry person with Ethan. They paid no mind to the dashcam, their lewd sounds filling the videos day after day. Perhaps it wasn't that they didn't care, but that Victoria was too confident in my blind obedience, my stupidity. I never even checked her phone, so how would I ever think to check the dashcam? The most recent video was from 2 days ago, on my birthday. My girlfriend was in the middle of a passionate encounter with another man. "Just hold me a little longer. I'm getting married soon, so we won't have many more chances like this," she'd said. Ethan nibbled at her again, and she begged for mercy before he stopped. "What are you afraid of? It'll be even more exciting after you're married." Victoria pouted coquettishly. "You're so bad," Ethan asked with a smirk. "Do you think that fool will be able to tell you're not a virgin?" Victoria laughed smugly. "Him, after waiting all these years, do you think he'll even be paying attention to that?" Ethan kissed Victoria. "You're so naughty, I feel bad for you, having to be with him. Now take good care of my big boy." Hearing those words, I felt a wave of dizziness, and my head throbbed. I forced myself to take several deep breaths. I tried to gasp for air, but it felt like no oxygen could reach my lungs. I remembered the day she suddenly accepted my proposal. I thought my sincerity had finally moved her. It turned out she was just pregnant with her old flame's child and wanted me to be the sap who would raise it. The last shred of affection I had for this relationship vanished completely. After the heart-wrenching pain came numbness. I sat on the sofa, motionless, all night. On the morning of the wedding, I took a taxi straight to the airport. Before boarding the plane, I hesitated. I was going to tell Victoria the wedding was canceled. I didn't want her to lose face in front of her friends and family. It would be better to part on good terms, to put a period at the end of our 6-year relationship. But when I called her, she rejected my calls several times. When she finally answered, her impatient voice came through. "What's the rush? The wedding doesn't start until noon. You don't need to pick me up, we don't need the wedding car. What are you in such a hurry for? I'll be there a little late. Just keep the guests entertained and don't embarrass me." She hung up without giving me a chance to speak. With a calm expression, I sent her a message. "The wedding is all yours and Ethan's. I wish you both happiness." Chapter 5. After sending the message, I blocked Victoria's number without a second's hesitation. On the plane, I switched my phone to airplane mode. The bumpy flight couldn't keep my exhaustion at bay. In a daze, I dreamt of Victoria. In our 6 years together, we had sweet moments and arguments, but I never imagined it would end like this. I woke up with tears streaming down my face. I wiped them away. Life had to go on. The 3-hour flight was over. My wedding with Victoria should have already started. I wondered what her expression would be when she saw a wedding with no groom. But I didn't care anymore. I was going to start a new life in this unfamiliar city. Just as I moved my luggage to the door of the company-provided apartment, my phone rang with an unknown number. Thinking it was a colleague from the branch office, I answered immediately. Before I could say hello, Victoria's furious roar came from the other end. "Sincere Smith, are you insane? You dare to block me? You dare to run away from our wedding? Who gave you the nerve? I told you I had to take care of my friend. I was only going to be a few minutes late and you run away." After venting her anger, Victoria seemed to calm down a little. "Today's wedding is canceled. We'll have another one later. But you have to be back here within 30 minutes to explain to my relatives and give everyone a gift of 1,000. The wedding gift money must also be doubled. My parents are furious with you. The next wedding has to be even more." I had heard enough. I cut her off, saying coldly, "I'm not coming back. Victoria, we're over." As soon as I finished, Victoria started screaming, "You say we're over? And we're over?" "I don't agree, Sincere Smith." I didn't want to deal with her anymore, so I hung up. After unpacking, I rested on the sofa. My phone showed missed calls. I looked at it. The block list was full of calls from Victoria's number. I gave a bitter laugh. How ironic. In all the time I'd known Victoria, the number of times she had initiated contact with me probably didn't add up to this many. As I opened my suitcase earlier, I found an ID photo of Victoria inside. She had put it there herself, saying I needed a good luck charm for my frequent business trips. I had carried that photo with me on every trip for years, so long that she had forgotten about it. In the photo, she looked so young and innocent. The younger me had fantasized about us loving each other for a lifetime, growing old together. But in reality, all I got was her betrayal and manipulation. I tore Victoria's photo to pieces and went downstairs to buy a case of beer. After all, today was the first day of my new life. It deserved a celebration. I'm a lightweight, and 2 beers had me feeling dizzy. I fell asleep in a haze on the sofa, but I still woke up on time the next day. I thought I'd be down for a while after the breakup, but my new colleagues were diligent and hardworking. Their serious and dedicated attitude was contagious, and I threw myself into my work on the very first day. Victoria felt like a lifetime ago. Turns out forgetting a relationship wasn't that hard after all. I checked my phone. Victoria hadn't tried to contact me all day. With Ethan around, she probably had no lingering feelings for me. When I got back to my apartment and was about to open the door, I heard a familiar voice call my name. Sincere Smith. I froze. I turned around to see Victoria. She had actually found me here. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her hair had lost its usual shine. She must have been searching for me for a long time without sleep. Before I could speak, she rushed up to me and started punching and kicking me. "You bastard scumbag, you dare to run away from our wedding? You think you can just end our 6 years together? You played with my feelings, you bastard scumbag?" I wanted to throw those words right back at her. For 6 years, I gave her everything. I had a clear conscience. I grabbed her hands as they beat against my chest, my anger finally erupting. "Victoria, I played with your feelings? Then what about the baby in your belly that belongs to another man?" Victoria stared blankly for a second, her face changing instantly. The confidence in her voice was gone. "Sincere Smith, don't you dare make baseless accusations. We've been together all these years, and you know my feelings about. I can't believe you'd stoop to such a despicable lie just to dump me in the past." I would have believed her without hesitation. I would have blamed myself for being too harsh. Then I would have tried every way to make her happy and apologize for my mistake. But this time, looking into her eyes, which were filled with grievance and helplessness, I felt not a shred of pity. I suppressed my emotions, trying to keep my voice calm. "Victoria, I saw your pregnancy test." She clearly hadn't expected me to look in the trash. Upon hearing this, she instinctively retorted, "Sincere Smith, are you sick? Isn't it disgusting to go through the trash?" As she spoke, Victoria seemed to realize she was getting agitated. She stopped, taking a deep breath to calm herself. I let out a cold laugh. "Disgusting? You cheating and getting pregnant is even more disgusting. You told me to respect you. Then you turned around and jumped into Ethan's bed, planning to have his child. What do you take me for, Victoria? Am I your boyfriend or just some sap? What were you thinking? Was I not good to you? Why would you do this to me?" By the end, I was almost roaring. Victoria, however, had lost all her earlier arrogance and stood with her head down, silent. I sighed, not wanting to argue with her anymore. This is it, Victoria. We're done. Victoria's head snapped up. She looked at me with disbelief, as if she couldn't believe those words came from my mouth. After all, to be with her before, I was willing to do anything. On the night she accepted my proposal, I was so excited I couldn't sleep, my mind filled with plans for our future. Sincere, don't be like this. This baby was an accident. Ethan was my first love, and I never really got over him. We were both drunk that night, and things just happened. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought about ending it, but it's a life. I couldn't bring myself to do it. Sincere, I know I was wrong. I promise from now on, I'll only have you in my heart. We can raise this child together, just treat him as your own. If you want, I can have another baby with you. That's enough, Victoria. I cut her off coldly. Listen to the words coming out of your own mouth. I'm not a charity, and I'm certainly not a recycling station. Hearing my words, Victoria finally lost her patience. Sincere Smith, you remember what you said today. Don't you regret it? Even if you come crying and begging me later, I won't. I didn't want to hear any more of her nonsense. I opened the door and went inside. Chapter 6. Sincere Smith opened the door. Open this door right now. Victoria pounded on the door outside. I put on my headphones and listened to music, pretending I couldn't hear a thing. After about half an hour, I heard footsteps retreating, and then, finally, silence. I thought that seeing how resolute I was, Victoria would accept reality. I had overestimated her. The next day, after a long day of work, I was walking out of the office building. I saw a large crowd gathered at the entrance. Curious, I walked over. My colleagues who recognized me gave me strange looks and cleared a path. I was wondering what was going on when I saw Victoria and her parents holding a large banner at the entrance. Scumbag Sincere Smith played with my daughter's feelings for 8 years, then abandoned her after she got pregnant. He's not even human. Victoria's parents, Robert and Mary Ashton, had deliberately dressed in rags for the occasion. They were sitting on the ground, wailing and rolling around hysterically. The crowd grew larger, and everyone kept their distance from me, pointing and whispering. Countless scornful gazes were directed at me. Victoria was pleased with the situation. She walked up to me, her face immediately shifting to a provocative expression as she whispered, "Sincere Smith, you forced me to do this. Scared now? I can give you one more chance. If you kneel and beg me right now, I promise I won't let this get any bigger. I didn't want to take it this far, but you know I don't have a steady job, and now I'm pregnant. My parents are old. I can't expect them to support me, can I? I have to think about the child in my belly. As long as you marry me and honestly earn money to support us, I can help you restore your reputation." I looked at Victoria and scoffed. Seeing this, her mother, Mary Ashton, rushed over and grabbed my arm, her face a mask of righteous indignation. "You bastard, you got my daughter pregnant and now you want to deny it? Are you looking down on us because we're from the countryside? My daughter was with you for 8 years, asking for nothing, giving you everything, and now you're tired of her? You can bully us country folk, but are you going to deny your own flesh and blood? Do you have a conscience? Are you even human? I never thought this would happen to me. I just wanted to see what the commotion was, and it turned out to be about me." Seeing my silence, the onlookers assumed I was speechless with guilt and believed the Ashton story even more. Some people even started to join in, chastising me. I ignored them, smiled faintly at Victoria, and said loudly, "How can you prove the child in your belly is mine?" The crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on Victoria. They sensed there was more to the story. Victoria panicked for a moment, but quickly composed herself. "What do you mean? You did it, but you won't admit it. Don't you know what you did? Do you want me to describe it in detail for everyone here? You may have no shame, but I do. I gave you 8 years of my life. How can you be so cruel?" Although Victoria was crying her eyes out as she spoke, I could clearly see the guilt in her eyes. At this point, her father, Robert Ashton, walked over unsteadily and joined in. "Sincere, at first we thought you were a good kid. You said you were an orphan, so we treated you like our own son. But how could you do something like this? We don't expect you to repay our kindness, but you can't abandon your own child. Do you want him to grow up without a father just like you? Watching them perform so earnestly, I wanted to award them an Oscar on the spot. If I weren't the person at the center of this, I might have believed them myself. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Victoria glared at me. You still have the nerve to laugh? How can you laugh? How can you face our family after what you've done? I stopped laughing and looked at Victoria calmly. No one knows better than you whose child you're carrying. Do you really think you can win me back with these tricks? Don't be ridiculous. Save yourself some dignity and take your parents home. Victoria was certain I was just bluffing and had no real evidence. She pointed at me and said defiantly, "You were the one enjoying yourself back then, and now you're the one who wants to walk away. On what grounds do you say this child isn't yours? What proof do you have that it isn't yours?" I chuckled softly and took out my phone, turning the volume all the way up. Just hold me a little longer. I'm getting married soon, so we won't have many more chances like this. What are you afraid of? It'll be even more exciting after you're married. You're so bad. Do you think that fool will be able to tell you're not a virgin? Him after waiting all these years, do you think he'll even be paying attention to that? You're so naughty. I feel bad for you, having to be with him. Now take good care of my big boy. The explicit conversation between Ethan and Victoria echoed clearly for everyone to hear. The three people in front of me froze, especially Victoria. She stared at me in utter shock, never imagining that I would actually have evidence. Is this proof enough? If not, I have the video too. With that, the crowd finally understood what had happened. Victoria had cheated on me, treating me like a huge sucker, and then had the audacity to accuse me of abandoning her. The rumor was completely shattered. The Ashton family became the biggest joke of the day. Watching the colorful expressions on their faces as they desperately tried to squeeze their way out of the crowd, I smiled. Chapter 7. Perhaps because they had no face to show, Victoria didn't bother me for the next week. And after that incident, my colleagues started to sympathize with me, probably thinking I was a decent guy. They were willing to chat with me and be my friend. I was finally able to focus all my energy on my work and enjoying my life. With my full dedication, the business I was responsible for quickly improved. I successfully signed the new branch's first major client. My boss was so pleased that he paid for a celebration for me out of his own pocket. After the celebratory dinner, I was a bit tipsy and turned down my colleague's offer to drive me home. I walked home alone along the street. Just as I reached my apartment building, I saw a familiar figure. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but the person saw me and walked toward me. As they got closer, I saw it was indeed Victoria. I almost didn't recognize her. The Victoria before me had none of her previous arrogance. Her clothes were clearly unwashed for days, her hair was a mess, and tear tracks stained her cheeks. The moment she saw me, her tears fell like broken pearls, and she dropped to her knees in front of me with a thud. "Sincere, you're finally back. I finally get to see you again. Sincere, I know I was wrong. It was my fault. I shouldn't have cheated. I just made a mistake that many women make. Please, can you forgive me? If you can forgive me, I can get rid of the baby. We can have our own, okay? As long as we can go back to how things were, I'll do anything you ask." The sour smell coming from Victoria made me wrinkle my nose. I subconsciously took a few steps back, looking down at her. "It's impossible, Victoria. Our relationship has already soured. I've tried more than once to convince myself to trust you, but the moment the thought appears, I feel like I'm lying to myself. Go home. I don't want to see you again." With that, I walked around the crying Victoria on the ground and went straight upstairs. To avoid being disturbed by Victoria again, I moved. I thought I would never see her again. But then her mother called me, saying Victoria had attempted suicide at home, constantly muttering my name and crying to see me one last time. Out of humanitarian consideration, I went to see Victoria a few times, but I only ever stood at the door of her hospital room, unwilling to go inside. Every time Victoria's parents saw me, their faces would light up with joy, even with a fawning smile. I knew they hoped I would get back together with Victoria. Even a mutual friend of ours tried to persuade me to reconsider reconciling with her. I rejected her suggestion on the spot. It's easy for them to talk. Forgive her? How could I forgive her? The moment I saw Victoria, my mind was flooded with images of her lying in Ethan's arms, cooing sweetly. They had no idea what kind of torture that was for a man. As an orphan, I desperately craved a family. I once placed all my hopes on Victoria, cherishing her with the utmost care. But the deeper I loved, the more painfully she hurt me. She was the one who personally destroyed our love. One day, I went to see Victoria again. Her parents weren't there, but to my surprise, Ethan had arrived before me. "Miss me, baby? I've been dying to see you." Ethan's face was lecherous as he looked at Victoria. Woken from her sleep, Victoria saw Ethan and was instantly alert, her face filled with anger. "What are you doing here? We're over. Don't come looking for me again." But Ethan suddenly lunged, pinning Victoria down. "Over? You bitch, you got rid of my kid, and you think we're over? It's not over until I say it's over." As he spoke, Ethan's hands started to wander all over her like a ravenous wolf. Victoria struggled helplessly, without any of the enjoyment she had shown before. I couldn't believe Ethan was so bold, even though Victoria was alone in the room. This was a hospital and he was doing it right in front of me. I couldn't take it anymore. I burst in, and before Ethan could react, I punched him squarely in the face. I then pinned him down and landed 2 more hard punches until he had no strength left to fight back. Watching Ethan curled up in the corner, clutching his face and not daring to look at me, I spat on the ground. "You useless waste. I've been wanting to do that for a long time." I then kicked him a couple of times for good measure. Victoria suddenly cried out to me, "Stop hitting him. It's my fault. Just stop hitting him." I turned to look at her. Even now, she was still trying to protect Ethan. In Victoria's heart, I had lost completely. But I wasn't going to let Ethan off so easily either. Worried that Ethan might cause more trouble, I had secretly hired someone to investigate him. And the investigation turned up some interesting things. Not only was Ethan promiscuous, but he was also a compulsive gambler. He had returned to the country because he had lost a fortune gambling abroad and couldn't pay his debts, so he had to flee. He targeted Victoria because he heard her family's old house was about to be demolished, and he was after the compensation money. Victoria's whole body trembled as she read the documents I handed her. She kept muttering, "Impossible, impossible." I sneered. "Now you know whether the thing that got you pregnant was a man or a monster." Hearing my words, Victoria's body shuddered, her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. Chapter 8. Victoria had only fainted from the shock. After a doctor checked on her, she quickly regained consciousness. Ethan had taken advantage of the chaos to slip away. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him anymore. A person like that would get what was coming to him. At first, I was puzzled. If he was just after money, why did he have to get Victoria pregnant and try to make me the sap to raise the child? Did that make it more satisfying? Later, I realized he probably had his own grievances with Victoria. Or maybe he just wanted to use it as a story to brag to others. But whatever the reason, he wouldn't get his way now. Seeing that Victoria was awake, I was about to leave when she suddenly called out to me. "Sincere, do you hate me very much right now?" I said, my face devoid of expression. "Of course I hate you. I hate that you knew you shouldn't do certain things, but you did them anyway. Not only did you do them, but you also tried to hide it from me like I was a fool and make me clean up your mess." Victoria gave a bitter smile, her eyes suddenly losing all their vitality. "Is it really impossible for us to be together again?" I looked at Victoria. There was no hope in her eyes. At that moment I could feel her emotions, anger, resentment, but not a single shred of remorse. I didn't answer her question. I turned and left the hospital room. 6 months later I was out shopping with my fiancée. We saw a beggar on the side of the road with both his hands and feet amputated. My fiancée felt sorry for him and pulled me over to give him some money. The beggar was so grateful for the $100 bill that he almost cried. He was about to thank her, But when he looked up and saw my face, his one remaining eye widened in terror. He started scrambling away as if for his life. I looked at the beggar crawling on the ground, feeling a sense of unease. He looked familiar, and then a flash of Ethan Moore's face appeared in my mind. My fiancée looked at me curiously. "Do you know that homeless man?" I snapped back to reality, wrapped my arm around her and smiled. "Want to know? I'll tell you all about it when we get home." The end.